Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
You see Santa Claus tonight? You better run, boy. You better run for your life.
But Mother Superior, it's Santa Claus.
Now I have another reason to hate Christmas.
Now that hell is full, I wonder where you will go.
The caller is in the house. The calls are coming from the house.
You're my family now.
But if you're bad boys and girls, your name goes in the bad boys and girls book, and I'll bring you something horrible.
Yes, Virginia, there is a Santa Claus.
The All-American Spook Show Podcast.
Hello and welcome to yet another edition of the All-American Spook Show Horror Podcast. I'm Josh and I'm joined here with Donny.
Hey.
And the Professor Smoke.
Yep.
Will couldn't be with us. He's on assignment yet again, but seems like he's on assignment every couple of weeks, doesn't it? But anyways,
I'd like to get those assignments.
Yeah. Yeah, it's called assignment going to bed too early to record these things. So. But anyways, yeah, we're here to do a Spookshow Spotlight, our latest Spookshow Spotlight. And,
We got Spotlight, yay!
Yay!
No, sorry,
Spotlight!
Oh.
We're going to be focusing on the holidays here. So this is going to be, we're going to call this Spookshow Spotlight Holiday Horror Part 1. The reason we say Part 1 is because we're not just talking about Christmas horror movies. It kind of evolved into, let's just talk about other holiday movies, around this time of year since there's so many holidays. So this episode, we're going to be focusing on Thanksgiving horror movies, Hanukkah horror, well, not that there's a lot, but, enough to talk about for a minute, and then New Year's horror movies. And then Part 2 in 2 weeks, which is episode 86, will focus solely on Christmas horror, since there's so much more to talk about there than these other holidays. So we figured we'd break it up. That way it's not a damn 3-hour episode on Christmas horror, because you really could go that deep and granular if you wanted to on Christmas horror movies. But I guess before we dive deep into the subject at hand today, we'll go ahead and toss the usual information. If you want to email us, with any questions or comments or whatever, you can do that at allamericanspookshow@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at @AASpookShow. If you want to send us any DMs or anything there instead of emails, you can do that. Same thing over on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, the Slasher app. You should be able to find us on all those platforms by searching for All American Spook Show. Over on YouTube, our YouTube channel, where we post up new episodes and other content and everything. Every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. East, we do Deadline Horror News Live, where we talk about the latest headlines and horror news and other random things. That's every Wednesday night, 9 p.m. East, over on our YouTube channel. And, of course, every Tuesday over on Patreon, which is patreon.com/AASpookShow. We have a new video minisode that comes out where the main thing there is the Library of the Professor, where Professor Smoke takes something out of his library and we talk about it. He gives ratings. We discuss it for a few minutes. It's always a good time every Tuesday over on patreon.com/AASpookShow. Of course, we have our TeePublic page where you can find logoed merchandise and other cool designs we have up on there. That's always available, helps out the cause. So you should be able to find us by searching for All American Spook Show on TeePublic. But if not, we have a Linktree link down in the show notes of this episode that should have all the links to all these things and more right there at your fingertips. You can just slide up and down there and see, what you're looking for, and then you hit that and it should take you right to where you need to go. So, so I guess with all that out of the way, I guess we'll go ahead and get into the subject that we've come to talk about today, and that's random holiday horror movies. So, basically, I guess we'll kind of I have an extensive list of the movies and stuff like that, and I guess we can kind of go down them. And if either of you guys want to give your thoughts on the movies, obviously a few of these we have actually done on past episodes of the podcast, and and I'll reference that whenever we're talking about it. But basically, we'll start with Thanksgiving, since we'll go in chronological order here between Thanksgiving, then Hanukkah, and the New Year's. The Thanksgiving horror list. Basically, we have The first one that I could find. Now, I guess before we start naming the movies, I should add a lot of these movies that I found on various lists, and I did a lot of my research on IMDb and on Wikipedia and a few other places. Some of these, I don't know if some people would necessarily mark them as traditional fill in the blank for that holiday horror movies. Some of them just happen to be at that time of year, so like it's that age-old thing of like, well, could this happen any other day of the year, or was it influenced, or was the reason that it happened Thanksgiving, Christmas, Halloween, whatever holiday you're talking about. So some of these just like basically here's a horror movie that just happened to be around Thanksgiving time. So they kind of list that as a Thanksgiving horror movie. And then some of them are more directly, have to do with Thanksgiving or these other holidays. But we'll go through, some of these movies are TV movies. Some of them are, straight to video releases. Some of them are just on streamers. Like, we've done a couple of episodes of the Into the Dark series, which is over on Hulu. So we'll be mentioning all those. And then we'll go through the top grossing. I've got the top grossing Thanksgiving horror movies. And then we'll go through the list of some of the highest rated Thanksgiving horror movies according to IMDb. So that's kind of what we've compiled here. And now, Smoke, I'll also probably reference you a lot in some of these because, like, you may or may not know a little bit more about these specific movies or anything as to whether or not how much they have to do with that particular holiday if you've watched it. Because let's face it, you've probably watched more of these than either Donny or myself have. So I guess I'll kind of refer to you on some of these, but also just the fact that some of these don't directly tie into the holiday itself, and like there's some anthology movies too. So I'll kind of toss to you and see what you think about some of them if you've seen it, or if you know of something historically that I'm forgetting about, that too. Either of you guys, if you've got anything else you want to slide in there, feel free. But best I can tell, the first Thanksgiving horror movie was in 1972 called Blood Freak. Now, Smoke, I think you've talked about that one before, right?
Oh, yeah. Blood Freak is, well, you ever seen, well, we talked about this on something else off air, so to speak, that you had, well, actually it was on the Library of the Professor segment, I believe, that you had a disc of drive-in grindhouse type trailers and stuff.
Yeah.
Might have been one that was on there. This was like I don't know if you call it a staple, but it is right up that alley of drive-in grindhouse films. And Think Something Weird, that distributor that puts out is a VHS distributor that moved into DVDs, but you know Something Weird Video, right?
Yeah.
Have you heard of them?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
And I think they released Blood Freak, as a matter of fact, on first on VHS and then on DVD later. And it's a wacky one. It's the Thanksgiving element, though. Let's just get that out of the way. It's not really much of anything to do with Thanksgiving. It's just that the killer is a turkey-headed mutant. That's the tie with Thanksgiving. I mean, it's not even really a tie with Thanksgiving. It's just a turkey-headed killer.
Yeah, it just so happens to be a turkey. So okay, Thanksgiving.
Yeah. But it is one hell of a fun, terrible movie that we're gonna have to. I've seen it on the big. I've had the pleasure, if you call it that, of seeing it on the big screen.
Nice.
Not when it first came out because I wasn't born when it first came out.
Yeah.
I'm not that old. Donny said I'm born in 1897.
Oh man, no, you posted some kind of pictures on social of you and.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was like your wedding photos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I love those eras, of course.
Yeah. You dressed up like y'all were dressed up like Victorian era or something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was like, that explains it. He's a vampire.
Yeah.
That explains it.
It
was
everything.
all sepia, fucking photos and shit.
Now it all makes sense.
It all makes sense. Yeah.
Now, best I can tell, now you fast forward, like Blood Freak comes out in 72, you have to fast forward all the way to 1981, where we found one of our personal favorites that we did on episode 20 of the Spook Show, Home Sweet Home, 1981.
I still have not seen this.
Yeah. I don't want to talk.
Oh, you haven't got around to watching that one, right?
I have not. No.
I don't want to talk it up or
You're in
anything, but yeah, you're in for a shitty time. I mean, a good time. No, you do need to watch. You just need to watch it. God Almighty. Just explaining it and talking about it does it no justice whatsoever. Trust me. You need to watch it that way. You can justifiably gouge your eyeballs out afterwards. But if you want to hear us talk about that more in depth, episode 20 of the podcast. And then, ironically, the next Thanksgiving horror movie is Blood Rage from 1987, which we already talked about in episode 46. That was last year's Thanksgiving special. Yet another one. Now we talked about that just recently in the 3rd anniversary episode, where Donny finally gave his rating on that one, and he gave it 2.5 stars. Will gave it 2. Smoke, you gave it 3, and then I gave it 2.5. So that's a consensus of 2.5 stars. So I'd say that's middle ground, fair. You'll probably enjoy it if you like that kind of movie. So that's there. But episode 46, if you want to hear more of our thoughts, and go check it out. It's that time of year. You might as well just go ahead and plug it in and watch it because it's pretty good.
It's pretty fun. And I actually had the pleasure of seeing that on the big screen as well.
Wow.
Two big Thanksgiving movies. I did not see Home Sweet Home on the big screen.
Yeah. Because it has never been screened that way.
Yeah.
Because that was a direct-to-video thing, so, you would have to find some random movie theater that, plays the retro movies at at a certain time of year that decides just, fuck it, let's put Home Sweet Home on the screen, That would be kind of cool, though, just in a room of like-minded people to watch that movie would be fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's actually how I saw those other 2 movies, Blood Freak and Blood Rage.
Yeah.
Well, they had this really cool retro-type thing going on, and it was all fans of those types of movies, even if they hadn't necessarily seen them. And a lot of times alcohol would be involved. And just one
like a good time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you need the alcohol.
Yeah.
To get through Home.
And some people have some really, really great talkback to the screen. I mean, there's some people that don't. I don't know if you've ever been in those types of movies. It doesn't really, it doesn't happen to your general Hollywood movies these days. People aren't talking back to it. But back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, there was a lot of audience participation talkback to what was going on in the movie, and people would come up with some pretty good one-liners.
Yeah, and if you're watching Home Sweet Home like that, it would just be maniacal laughter. God. So you have to fast forward about 6 more years to get to the next one, and that's Amityville: A New Generation. Now, I haven't seen that one, but something tells me that's not a Thanksgiving movie, and it probably just happens to be around Thanksgiving time or something. That just sounds like something that wouldn't necessarily be directly tied to Thanksgiving, but it's on the list. A couple years later, in 95, The Granny.
Yep.
Now, this is a movie I haven't seen, but you 2 have seen it, right?
Yeah, but that was a long fucking time
I remember
ago.
watching this at Josh's house in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And we just, both of us just, yeah, man, it was just a lot of fun to be had. Yeah. Definitely some memorable lines.
Then a couple years later in 97, a TV movie called Intensity. I've never seen it, but that's the next one. Then the next year, 98, Alien Abduction Incident in Lake County, which also says like the McPherson tapes. That's another TV movie, but I've never seen that.
No, I haven't. I've heard of it. That's something that's been on a list. I wouldn't say a short list, but I guess it's been on a long list because it's a movie I've been
very, very
hearing about. Haven't gotten around to watching it.
Mm-hmm. But then, like I said, that was 1998. There wasn't another one there, that, at least as far as what we could dig up, until 2005 when Boogeyman came out. And I think that's another one where it's not necessarily directly about Thanksgiving, but I guess it takes place during that time of year. But
then again, like if you think like you had Alien Abduction, that was 1998. For 7 years, you had those 8-9 movies to choose from if you wanted Thanksgiving horror. that's what you had to choose from.
Yeah.
Anywhere from Blood Freak to the those two TV movies.
So you can see why people probably watch the shit out of like Blood Rage or Blood Freak, something like that, for a long time, because there really wasn't much else that time of year if you're wanting to watch a horror movie.
And even those weren't even real,
Yeah, that's loosely connected. So then, a year later in 2006, Poultrygeist: Night of the Chicken Dead comes out. This is probably one of the few that's like really, I think, directly more tied into Thanksgiving, right?
No.
No, actually, yeah, you would think it would be.
But apparently not.
It would be with the title like Poultrygeist, but really it's just about, again, kind of like Blood Freak, it's about various types of poultry mutating and coming to life.
Now, was that a full moon deal, or is that a trauma picture? It's got to be one or the other, right?
Yeah, you were correct. It's trauma.
Yeah, there you go. Something called Poultrygeist: Night of the Chicken Dead. Like, it's a 50-50 chance. It's either trauma or Charles Band's got a hand in it, one or the other. But the same year, Seance came out, and then two more the same year, 2006. You have two movies called Thanksgiving. One just, spelled the normal way, Thanksgiving, and then another one called Thanksgiving, except no K and S in the middle. It's an X. So thanks.
Yeah.
X, giving.
Annex giving.
Yeah. Thanks, XX giving. Thanks, AAA. No, that's something different.
yeah, pretty much. 2 years later, we got two more movies that came out in 2008: Home Movie and Thanksgiving. Now, I think Thanksgiving was another one of those full moon type deals, wasn't it?
That I have not seen any of those. I haven't seen any of the Thanksgiving movies that we just mentioned, or the Thanksgiving movies yet.
Yeah,
I have seen the Thanksgiving movies, or at least that one.
Apparently, I'm just now looking at it. That was directed by Jordan Downey. The first Thanksgiving was. It's distributed by Gravitas Ventures. So apparently, no, it doesn't have anything to do with Trauma or Full Moon or Charles Band or whatever. But they did make another one, and it's just called Thanksgiving 3. And they made it 4 years later in 2012. Now, you ask, where the hell is 2? It never happened. They didn't make a 2. They just had Thanksgiving, and then 4 years later, Thanksgiving 3. So I'm guessing that's part of the joke, right? Like, because there's clearly a comedy element to this. And apparently that one, they raised the budget for the Thanksgiving 3 as a Kickstarter campaign. And I guess just because everybody loved Thanksgiving so much, like they had to pull their money together to make the third one or the second one, whatever the fuck. So yeah, those were the next two on the list. Then you fast forward 2 more years in 2014, a movie called Christie. And then 4 more years later, 2018, that's when we got the Into the Dark series over on Hulu. It started. And they made 2 Thanksgiving movies. Into the Dark, Flesh and Blood in 2018. Then in 2019, Pilgrim. And we just talked about Pilgrim. That was our Thanksgiving special this year, episode 83. So go back and check that out. But in between those 2 episodes, or, however you want to phrase Into the Dark, in the same year, 2018, you had The Oath. Then in 2019, now they had this on the list, but I don't remember any kind of Thanksgiving element to this movie. But it's the first escape room movie. I have no recollection whatsoever about Thanksgiving playing any part in that damn movie. But
maybe they mention it in the dialogue. It was like, oh yeah, Thanksgiving, and now it's just a Thanksgiving movie.
Maybe there has to be something there that I'm just not remembering, but clearly it didn't play a major part in the plot, but it must be there. Same year, 2019, Fractured came out. Then just last year in 2020, we had The Last Thanksgiving. There was one that I left off here. In 2017, there was the movie Derelicts. That was another one that had something to do with Thanksgiving. I lost that one in the shuffle there. But, last year, the Last Thanksgiving, and then there was, and I'll mention it simply because, there was a Thanksgiving segment in the movie, but the movie Happy Horror Days came out in 2020. Now, that's a holiday anthology film, so it pretty much runs the gamut as far as holidays are concerned in that one. It literally has something to do with, it looks like Valentine's, St. Patrick's, Easter, July 4th, Hanukkah, New Year's, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween, Labor Day. So there's a bunch of holiday-themed segments in that movie. So we'll mention it. And then just recently, Black Friday came out. So that's probably one that we will get to here in the next couple of years, on a Thanksgiving special, because that one looks pretty cool with Bruce Campbell and a handful of others. So that one's the most recent one. So and I'm sure there might be something that we're leaving out here, but as far as horror-related Thanksgiving movies are concerned, that's pretty much all I could dig around and find. Donnie, do you have the list pulled up with the top-grossing Thanksgiving horror movies? Do you have it in front of you?
Yeah, I've got it here. It's so the top-grossing Thanksgiving horror movie in actually number one. I don't know if you want to go. Let's go 5 to 1.
Okay.
So it's top 5. Poultrygeist. Number 5 is Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead. Opening weekend was 10.6 million.
No, I'm looking at it. That's 10,000. That's not millions.
What?
Yeah, that's not those bottom few. That's not millions. That's thousands.
Oh, that's shitty.
$10,000 opening weekend.
All right, 10. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Fucking dump.
We don't know that. It might be awesome.
I
doubt it, but we'll find out.
Yeah, so $10,600, and it worldwide gross was $22,600.
So it made most of its money here in the U.S. domestically. Yeah. It must have played like in the Philippines or something like that to pick up the other $12,000. I don't know.
Something.
Yeah.
Number 4, The Oath from 2018. Opening weekend 29,000. Worldwide gross is 403,000. Number 3, Christie from 2014. It did not have a opening weekend. I believe that was direct to streaming or direct to video or video on demand. But its worldwide gross was 616,000. Number 2, Boogeyman from 2005. Opening weekend. Now we get into the numbers. Opening weekend 19 million. Worldwide gross was 67 million. And the top grossing Thanksgiving horror movie was Escape Room, just like we said. We just spoke about that. Opening weekend 18.2 million. Worldwide gross was 155 million.
Wow.
Right?
It's crazy that Boogeyman opened up to slightly more than Escape Room did, but then worldwide gross, it just blew Boogeyman out of the water. damn near 100,000 more, I'm sorry, 10 million more. But yeah, that's why I was pointing out earlier about Escape Room. Like, I don't recall anything about Thanksgiving to do with that movie, but
I don't.
I guess there was enough for it to qualify, and then damn if it doesn't turn out to be the number one grossing Thanksgiving horror movie of all time.
Yeah, who knew?
I have a list here of the highest rated Thanksgiving horror movies, and now this is based on IMDb's rating system. Now they do basically like 0 to 10 stars or whatever. So, but they do like not percentages, but the decimal system. So it's like 0.2, 0.3, so on. So I'll go 13 through 1 on this. Number 13, Thanksgiving 3 from 2012 got a 2.9 rating. I don't need to say, I shouldn't have to say, but anything I'd say below a 5 point something is probably a pretty low, considered to be a pretty shitty score. So 2.9 for Thanksgiving 3. Number 12, surprise, surprise. Honestly, I'm surprised it's not the lowest one. But Home Sweet Home from 1981 has a 3.6 rating on IMDb. Number 11, Blood Freak from 1972 is only slightly higher, 3.7. And then number 10 is Thanksgiving, with the X in the middle, from 2006. That's 3.8. So it goes 3.6, 3.7, 3.8 for those 3 movies. Then it jumps up a little bit with number 9 at Boogeyman from 05 at 4.2. And then number 8, same score, Thanksgiving, the first one from 2008. Then number 7, Home Movie from 08, that has a 5.6. There's a pretty big jump there as far as the score is concerned.
Mhm.
Then number 6, Blood Rage from 1987, had a 5.8, which is probably about right for that movie. I mean, that's basically about what we came up with. About a 50% score. Number 5, Christie from 2014, 5.9. Number 4, Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead from 06, 6.1. That is crazy. That Poultrygeist is the 4th highest rated movie on this list. Number 3, Alien Abduction Incident in Lake County from 1998, 6.4. Number 2, Thanksgiving from 2006, not the one with the X in it, but the normal Thanksgiving title, with a 6.9. And then the highest rated Thanksgiving horror movie, Intensity from 1997, that TV movie, had a 7.2. Now, if you're out there listening and you actually go to IMDb and you look these up, you'll see it. But that's actually not the number 1 on IMDb. The number 1, and the only reason I left it out is because it's not a movie. Was Grindhouse, and remember in the middle of Grindhouse they had those trailers for Thanksgiving. The Eli Roth directed trailer that's like stuck in the middle of Grindhouse. That they put that on the list, I guess, because of that, and Grindhouse being a highly rated movie, that made it the number 1 movie. But it's not because of Thanksgiving, though. You know what I mean? They rated Grindhouse that high because of the whole package, not just because of that one trailer. So that's why I didn't include it on the list. But just full disclosure, if you go to IMDb and you look, you'll see it there. But there has been rumors for years of Eli Roth actually making that Thanksgiving movie, which that would be awesome. We need to post up that fake trailer that he made for Grindhouse up on our socials. If you've never checked that out, you need to see it, because that right there would be, I dare say that would be probably one of our favorite Thanksgiving horror movies, if not the favorite, instantly, as soon as that thing became reality, because that just looks flat awesome. It's like everything a mid to late 70s drive-in Grindhouse type flick would be, except Thanksgiving slasher is it looks perfect. So basically, yeah, that brings us that kind of wraps up the Thanksgiving horror list and everything, and that's the highest rated ones and all that. So I guess we'll quickly go down the list of Hanukkah, since it's only one movie called Hanukkah in 2019. I'm sorry, go ahead, Smoke.
Oh, no, I said that makes it easy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. All right, next week on the Spook Show. No, the one interesting thing to note about that movie is that it's basically Sid Haig's last movie. I think there might have been 1 or 2 others that I don't think have actually been released yet, that I guess he had some part in that they're still working on or something. But I think up till this point, and I could be wrong, I think Hanukkah was the last movie that came out maybe around or after his time of death, because he passed in the summer of 2019, I believe it was. So this came out, a little while after that. But needless to say, between that and 3 from Hell and maybe 1 or 2 other projects, this is the last things that Sid Haig did. So if nothing else, there's that. There is that to note for that movie. I'll only mention 2 others. One I just mentioned, in Happy Horror Days in 2020, another anthology film. There is a Hanukkah segment in there, but there's another Hanukkah segment and another holiday anthology film called Holiday Hell, which came out in 2019. So both of those, if you want a little bit of Hanukkah horror, you got those 2 segments in those movies, and then the movie Hanukkah in 2019. So that's a pretty limited list. New Year's, there's a lot more, but not a whole hell of a lot more. We've got the earliest one. Now, Smoke, you're more of a expert on the silent stuff. The first one that I could find, and this is actually one of the oldest things I could find on any of these lists outside of the Christmas stuff, was in 1921. There was a Swedish silent film called The Phantom Carriage. Have you Heard of that or
That
seen
is-
it?
Yeah, I've seen that one. I haven't seen there was a remake done later, I think, but I have seen that silent film. That's just a great film altogether. I mean, it takes place on New Year's Eve, but that's all really the only tie-in to New Year's again on that one. It's just a very what's the word, like a masterpiece of that director, seen as he's a Swedish director, so it's horror elements in it, but as any silent film from that era, it's more melodrama and thriller and stuff that's going on in there, not necessarily hard horror or anything.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of not even quite as much horror elements as say Nosferatu or Cabinet of Dr. Caligari from the silent era, but it's still there and it's still considered a horror movie. And if you actually, you could probably look it up in that Encyclopedia of Horror Movies, that recent book.
Yeah.
It was like my Bible in high school, that one you picked up recently. 100%. I know it's in there. That's probably where I came across the name first and then seeked it out later. But yeah, that guy Victor Sjöström was his name, and he went on to make movies in Hollywood later. Even directed a Lon Chaney movie from the silent era called He Who Gets Slapped. Lon Chaney played a clown.
Did you say He Who Gets Slapped?
That was a reference. That was a reference.
Slap!
The Devil's
The Devil's Rain. Thou art the one. Slap! Donny, you need to go back and watch The Devil's Rain. God, good Lord Almighty.
Oh,
You may-
Ernest Borgnine.
I'm not going to say everything we watched, obviously, before you came on board was solid gold, but man, there were some really good ones you weren't here for, and that's one of them, man. You need to go watch that. Fucking William Shatner and Ernest Borgnine.
Yeah. And by the way, while we're talking about it, just real quick, that was the movie that they got the Michael Myers mask from.
Yeah.
Was William Shatner's role in that movie where they had to, make a cast of his face, latex cast of his face or whatever, which ended up being the Michael Myers mask. But that's neither here nor there. That's a different holiday thing.
Yeah. That's the Hill holiday. Whole different other thing to talk about there. So that was 1921. 12 years later, in 1933, came Mystery of the Wax Museum. Have you ever seen that one, Smoke?
Yeah, that one too is another good. Again, not nothing at all really to do with New Year's, other than it's part of the movie taking place on New Year's. So
yeah,
it's one of those where we could lump it into those categories we're talking about, where you could take it into put it any holiday or any day or no holiday, and the movie would exist without the holiday being there at all. So.
Then in 1958, there was a Swedish remake of the one that we just talked about from 1921, The Phantom Carriage. Have you ever seen the 1958 remake of that?
No, I would like to see that. I've not watched that one yet. If I can find it, I don't know. These days you could probably go to Tubi or even YouTube or something and watch the whole thing.
Yeah, because that's where I've seen a lot of those old silent films. You can pull them up on YouTube. There's a lot of them on there.
Yeah, because a lot of those. Well, this one, the remake was. What year was the remake?
Oh, this would be 1958, so this wouldn't be a silent film. Yeah, this would be like a normal, talkie or whatever. But I'm just saying, like as far as the silent films are concerned, you can find a lot of those on YouTube.
Yep, I mean they're in the public domain now anyway. So
there you go. Yeah.
Tubi or YouTube. I'm 100% sure that Phantom Carriage is on there because I recently, outside of this, it was before we were even talking about holiday horrors or anything. I pulled up something from that, and they had the whole movie there. So anybody who's interested in checking out that and seeing what the element of New Year's is in there, it's for sure on YouTube, the whole movie.
Then you have to fast forward all the way to 1980 before there was another New Year's related horror film, and that was Terror Train. Now that one had Jamie Lee Curtis in it, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I believe it did, yeah.
Yeah.
She was, yeah. That was part of her in her early Scream Queen days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had Halloween.
Yeah, right after Halloween.
And what year was Terror Train? Was it 80 or 81?
1980. So that would be like a couple years after Halloween, right?
Yep.
Yeah, hell, before Halloween 2 even, I think.
Yeah.
Before prom, she might have had Prom Night in there.
And The Fog.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that came out the same year too. But also the same year, New Year's Evil.
That's another fun. I don't know. Have either of y'all seen that movie?
I have not.
Oh yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
Well, I love the song in there, the New Year's Evil metal song or whatever. That song I think is actually on Spotify. By the way, if anybody's got Spotify and you want to hear the New Year's Evil song, on there.
I'm sure that one is played quite a bit on Spotify.
It's like 5 listens, and they're all me, probably.
Yeah. Well, this thing's been listened to 5 times. Let's see who listened to it. It's all the same guy.
I had forgotten about one of these upcoming movies up here.
So you fast forward 7 years to 1987, and you've got Bloody New Year.
Oh yeah.
And then the next year, a movie called Iced in 1988. I've never heard of that one.
That one I need to watch it again. I didn't even realize it was around the New Year's element in it. I haven't seen it since back in the day, but I actually have it on VHS. And it's the cover of that. I mean, I can't. I'll put it up. I'll have to put it up on like the Facebook page. Just a guy that's skiing off a mountain or something on the cover.
There was one that I forgot to mention there back in 1981 called Ghost Keeper. Kind of skipped around with the dates there, but yeah, that one came out in 81. So I don't know much about that one, but that one was right after the year after New Year's Evil and Terror Train. But going back, you have to, like I said, Iced came out in 1988. Then you fast forward 11 years before there was another one, and that was the Arnold Schwarzenegger flick, End of Days, in 1999.
Yeah, I had completely forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that one's also important to note because by any measure that I could find, it is by far the highest grossing New Year's, quote-unquote, New Year's horror movie that I could find. It opened up at $20.5 million, and the worldwide gross was $211.9 million for that. I haven't seen that movie in a long time. Hell, it might have been around the time that it came out, at least on TV or something.
That's what it would be for me.
Yeah, but I remember enjoying it back then. But and I remember it had a pretty good soundtrack, like a good hard rock, heavy metal soundtrack or whatever of the time. But so that one, like pretty much by almost any measure that I could find, was the highest grossing movie on this list.
And that was one where the holiday or whatever played a big role in the movie. I mean, that's one where you can't really take it off of that day, and I mean, it's about end of days and whatnot.
Yeah, it makes sense to have it there.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Then you fast forward to 2007 when The Signal came out. Then in 2013, Antisocial came out. Then in 2016, The Night of the Virgin. And there was one more, which is an anthology movie called Holidays. That came out in 2016. I didn't have any domestic opening numbers on that one, but the worldwide gross on that movie was $55,621. But that was in 2016. Then 2018, you've got Minutes to Midnight. And then once again, you introduce the Into the Dark series into the equation again in 2018. So you've got Into the Dark, New Year, New You in 2018. And then in 2019, Into the Dark, Midnight Kiss. And then the last one that the same as the last list, Happy Horror Days, that holiday anthology film, had a New Year's segment. Also, I'm sorry, I skipped over somehow. In 2008, The Children came out, and that one actually had a worldwide gross of $1.3 million. So that was actually the second highest grossing New Year's horror film that I could find. So
yeah, I have no idea what that is.
I read some synopsis where basically like families go camping or some shit, or they're in some remote place, and then the children go evil and start hunting down the parents or something like that. So that was just some brief synopsis I saw of it because I'd never heard of it. But yeah. So really, I guess that'll pretty much put a wrap on it as far as like there's Thanksgiving, there's the very brief Hanukkah mention there, and then New Year's horror. So obviously Christmas horror is going to be the one where there's a much deeper dive because there's a ton more to go through there. So come back next time, the next Spook Show Spotlight in 2 weeks. That'll be episode 86 for that, and that episode will come out. I'm sorry, I'm just going to give you a specific date just so you'll know. That episode comes out December 13th, episode 86. So come back for that 2 weeks from today, for our more of our talk and going deep into the Christmas horror film. So Was there anything else you guys wanted to add about Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, or New Year's related horror films before we check out here this week?
No, I think we pretty much covered it, unless Smoke has something.
That was pretty much it for those. Other than, well, yeah, Bloody New Year, we kind of glazed over. Glazed over. I don't think that's the right term.
No, that's a horrible thing that you're mentioning.
It's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
We kind of went over it fast, but I mean.
Yeah, there you
go. Anybody who came up in renting movies back in the 80s will probably remember that cover with the skeleton with the New Year's Eve hat and the little party favor thing in its mouth. Disco ball in the background, But that movie hardly has anything to do with the New Year's. Although for some reason it was like there's some New Year's party favors in this room in part of the movie. But the movie takes place in July, so I don't know.
Once again, another one of those where the movie cover makes it look way cooler than the movie is. It's another example.
That movie, Norman J. Warren, and that guy makes some off-the-wall type.
Yeah.
I mean, low-budget movies, but just sort of off-the-wall, surreal type stuff, and that's really more of an Evil Dead rip-off kind of movie than anything else. But it is a fun one, though.
So we still haven't made a decision as of recording this as to what older Christmas movie we're going to be watching, because this episode will kind of kick off the Christmas season for us, because Christmas, or, I keep saying, like, I keep referring to December as fucking Christmas, but you know what I mean. The Christmas season doesn't start until this Wednesday, December 1st, so this is kind of the unofficial kickoff to the Christmas season for us, the holidays and everything, right after we just celebrated Thanksgiving. So we're going to be watching next week an older Christmas release. Now, our old new line that we've explained before, for new listeners, anything basically from 1999 back, we consider an older film, and then 2000 to present is a newer film. That's kind of our dividing line. So, and we always kind of rotate old, new, back and forth. So in the rotation is an older movie, and of course, since it's December, we're going to do an older Christmas horror release. So we haven't decided what that will be quite yet as of the recording of this. But we will make up our minds, and we will have it for you next week, episode 85 on December 6th. So I'm sure keep an eye on our socials on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and all the rest. We'll announce what we're going to be watching before the episode comes out. That way you have an opportunity to go hunt it down and watch it yourself before the episode debuts next week. So
yeah, we'll probably maybe we'll announce it on the Deadline Horror News episode.
Yeah, that could be a good idea. So maybe we'll officially announce it on the December 1st edition of Deadline Horror News.
Yep.
This Wednesday night over on YouTube. So we'll make up our minds by then, and we will officially announce it there. And like I said, we'll put it out on the socials as well, so everybody has a chance to catch up and be current with us and be ready for that next Monday. So I guess that's all we need to say until next week. So for Will, who couldn't be with us, he's on assignment sleep. I got choked on my bullshit. And for Donny and the Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We are the All-American Spook Show Horror Podcast, and we will talk to you next week.
As you leave the theater, folks, please be careful. Don't let this happen to your car. Be sure to remove the speaker before you leave. If you should accidentally pull a speaker loose, please turn it in at our snack bar or box office. Thank you.